Okay, welcome again to the IWSA weekly interview series. And today I'm talking with Frank Berrens, CEO of Berrens Maritime. And Frank is a keen advocate for wind propulsion solutions. He's worked in shipping for over 40 years, 14 of those years as a captain, and the rest of that time in various management positions, dockwise and others. So Frank, thank you for joining us today. Really good to see you.
Yeah. Hi. Hello. Yes. Hi, Kevin.
Yeah, and I'm really looking forward to hearing about a little bit more about Berrens Maritime and your take on the wind propulsion market and all of the developments. So, without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to you, and please take it away.
All right. Thank you very much, Gavin, for the opportunity to have me speaking. I'm Berrens Maritime. We are Berrens Maritime, navigating to sustainability in 2020. Indeed, as was introduced by Gavin, I am 40 years experienced in the shipping and logistics industry. And it's been an amazing ride so far. I can tell you all about it, as I will in the upcoming minutes. What we do at Berrens Maritime is looking to the future. We provide consultancy, interim management, and project management for shipping offshore, and we have a very keen eye on innovative maritime sustainability projects. Coming to that, why do we do that? We have a long experience in global shipping. I was at sea indeed for 14 years on everything that floats, basically from small tugboats to dredging to oil tankers to sailing cruise ships. And then I worked in the port and railroad logistics. We were doing complex, heavy lift transport projects with high risks at dockwise shipping. And then I worked in the offshore installation projects, which are complex, technically challenging as well in the offshore industry, in the North Sea, for instance, and challenging environment. You can see here some of the adventures I have made. I took all the pictures myself, I can assure you. We sailed the Northern Sea route for once, and we transported amazingly impossible things and brought that to the good end. We also did some installation work, as you can see there in the North Sea, for Renewable Industry. And the sailing vessel, I was proud chief officer on that cruising ship, but that was in the last century. We worked together with the new developing upcoming companies. You see, we are connected to the sustainable maritime industry. I enjoy that. It is fantastic to be working in this field. I have a passion for this as well, and I do believe this is the future. Some of the new companies I am connecting to, and the logos will grow by the week. What we face today is a development to zero emission globally. Everybody wants to have a greener planet and a better world, of course. And this also creates an urgency to realize sustainable shipping. It is today, in this time and era, that it is happening. The global society of where we live in today, 2020, we find abundant support for new, innovative, sustainable technologies. Everybody wants to have a better and cleaner world than we have today. That also reflects in regulatory affairs. If you see, the IMO has set strict limits for 2050 for shipping, and the EU for 2030 will be stricter and stricter. And what I read today in in the newspapers, and what I feel in the field is that it's going to be even stricter than that, perhaps because the COVID is working as a catalyzer on that. We have also the market. They want the shipping to invest in a greener image, and the shipping itself is waking up that we want to invest in a greener image for our planet. So what we see is innovative technologies in development. We see it on fuel. Scrubber technology is now a fact. Ammonia is coming, hydrogen, hybrid, electrical, on alternative fuels. Propulsion efficiency as well. Many innovative companies and universities working on it. Anti-fouling, air bubble layers, propeller design, and wind-assisted propulsion as well. It's not that wind-assisted propulsion is telling us this is the solution to go to a zero-emission world, but it is part of the solution, as I will tell you later, for sure. And if we look at that, then we can see that the market potential for wind-assisted propulsion techniques is enormous. Today we have about 20 vessels actually sailing on our global oceans. Next year it will be about 40, but prognoses are that in 2030, 1 decade from now, it will be between 4,000 and 11,000 ships that are being retrofitted or new built with wind-assisted propulsion. So that, of course, is a very interesting market development with lots of opportunities. Wind assistant, the status of wind assistant development, we can find IMO direction and various governmental studies available all over the internet. You can see on the net, on the World Wide Web, where we are going. It is definitely coming to a realization phase to become, whether we want it or not, it will become a greener industry. Different technologies, we can see they are coming available: rotor technology, ventifoil technology, soft sail technology. It's all there. Innovative startup guys and companies are pushing the boundaries, have been pushing the boundaries for decades, but now they face the fact that it's going to be reality. The market, though, is yet not divided. It's differentiated. It's not organized. It's not yet being to that state of maturity that it'll that we have a clear market overview. It is brand new, just born. The environmental impact rules in the development are also just coming off the shelves. It is floating from IMO slowly towards the governments and flag states, but the ruling is imminent, and it will be there in a few years' time, even faster perhaps, if you see what's happening in the governments at the moment and in the NGOs and what the IWSA is doing, for instance. If we look at the technical and operational specs, also these are in development. What I mean there is that, of course, we have to, when we build something new and we make wind-assisted propulsion inventions, they have to be safe and they have to be strong. And you can see that class societies like DNVGL and American Bureau of Shipping, they're all working on it to get their hands on it, to get the boundaries for development and design in place and safe. So that coming, we can see the challenges ahead of us. What needs to be done if we want to have the wind-assisted propulsion taking off properly further is the improvement of our image. Many people of the image have the image, it is, are we going back to the old sailing days, the romantic times of good old sailing days? No, we are talking about modern wind-assisted propulsion technologies. The schedules of shipping will not change necessarily unless it is called for by the market. And that is not because of the technology. There is no romanticism in sailing ships. I can assure you that I've been on them. And it's not economically what we have today in a world where we sail around on 230,000 tons bulk carriers and 5,000 passenger cruise vessels and 20,000 TEU container vessels. It is an assistance to get the propulsion more green. That's the image we need to work on. We have to prove reliability of the wind-assisted propulsion systems to get the guys who have to work with it, the ship operators, the ship owners, the equity funds, to believe it is sustainable and it works. It actually works. The reliability in terms of operability is, of course, being worked upon. What we need now, we are in the phase, if I look at it, of collecting real-time data. Real-time data are being collected by the various startup companies, but it's not yet regulated, it's not yet common knowledge, so it's not yet bankable. The effectivity and efficiency both need to be proven. If you can see, the effectivity of the sails are with a dynamic system, for instance, as you can see here in the picture, is fantastic. Although the budgets for a guy who owns a yacht like that, who can buy a boat like that for the weekend, is somewhat different than for the captain owner who is struggling in wind force 9 with a head sea in the short stubby waves of the North Sea. And the technology has to be proven to serve those guys, the last ones. Then we're on our way. The efficiency as well. We can design, of course, a Rolls-Royce in wind-assisted propulsion, but maybe a Volkswagen Polo is also sufficient. And the efficiency is also not yet defined at this time. So we're looking into that. What we are looking for at Berrens Maritime is a standard for investment in wind propulsion technology and how to make the installations on the vessels. We can assist with that. We have the knowledge, we have the experience, we know that. What we do need to know more about is product viability, the economics, as just explained a little bit, and regulatory impact that is going to come. That's going to come. On the productivity, what we need to know is wind propulsion technology knowledge. Of course, we have to know what are the different propulsion technologies that are now being developed and in design stages, or maybe already in operation stages. We of course don't want to have the competition share all their data, but we need to know what is the standards we are working on and what can a ventifoil system do versus a soft sail, and what is the expected ratio, kilowatt per euro, or whatever ratio we will define that we can find with different propulsion technologies. That is something a ship owner or a ship operator or a banker would like to know. Of course, we have to have some fleet knowledge. What is the frame distance if we want to retrofit it or build it new? We have the knowledge in-house for that. but you need to know. And then we need structural validation in accordance with the class rules that are just being developed on strength, on dynamic stability, so that we are sure that we can tell the captain who's sitting in that wind force 9 that the sails are still will be strong, and it will not be a burden, an extra burden. On the economic side, we have to have knowledge on operability forecasting. We can deliver that. We have to have different in-depth knowledge of different available wind propulsion technologies. Again, on standardized specs, we know about trade routes in wind climates. We can do the sensitivity analysis then on cost saving impact. For instance, fuel price. We also know about main engine settings. We don't want to pollute all diesel engines, etc. Installation cost, of course, we need to put it on, and we know how to do that and where to do that and what the logistic cost will be, and how to get that in time as much as possible. We need to be aware of subsidy funding. Perhaps we can assist the new innovative companies on the one side, and on the other side, the ship owners and operators, to help them going over the hurdle to start with the wind-assisted propulsion. At the end of the day, of course, we do the investment net present value calculation, in which everybody will see that it will pay out at the end of the day of the lifetime of a vessel. Regulatory impact is not something easy. Many regulations are being drawn up at the moment. IMO flag state, EU standards, everybody is forming at this moment as we speak their formulas. These calculation methods will be accepted. There will be real-time as well, real-time recording of it. More and more we want to know about the greenhouse effects. It's going to be bankable, so it will be of serious impact on your daily operations of vessels. And we want to know how to what the difference with propulsion means in this respect. We can make that calculation. That's my story. The question is, how can we assist you?
Okay, thank you very much, Frank. That was a very, very interesting run through all of those issues that are facing sector and development, and your experience of actually analysing that is really going to be a real asset for people that you're working with. So I've just got a couple of points that I want to kind of pick out of the presentation that you did. You talk about the decarbonisation of shipping, and we're seeing that as being probably the defining issue of the coming decade or two. And you talked about wind propulsion being part of the solution. How do you see that? How do you see wind propulsion actually fitting in to this decarbonisation drive over the next few years?
Yeah, thanks. That's a good question. If I look at the picture around us, we have let's say 65,000 commercial vessels on the planet, carrying around 1.8 million tons of cargo. That is, of course, some number which is huge and immense. It will be only growing. All those vessels together produce about 1 billion tons of CO2, which is only 3% of the global output per year. If we see the studies that have been made on from various governments, for various governments, we can see that the wind propulsion technology can maybe save up to 3.5 to 7.5 million tons a year gases. So let's say we can put all together with the wind assisted propulsion technology incorporated in shipping. Perhaps we can assist our own planet with 1% of less carbon output per year. And that, of course, is worthwhile to stay well below our 2 degrees warming up.
Yeah, absolutely. I've seen the, in the UK Clean Maritime Plan, they pushed that forecast out to 2050, looking at around about a 40 to 45% penetration of wind assisted areas. So yeah, there's, I mean, that's a lot of growth. That's a substantial market. I think they're looking at something around £2 billion pounds per year of market value by within 3 decades. Yeah, it's a substantial area, and as you say, 1% of global greenhouse gases abated by one technology group is substantial. But okay, so from what I get from from what you were talking about, that you talked about some of the drivers here. But we've seen over the last 12 to 18 months a serious uptick in interest in propulsion. I mean, there's a substantial amount of momentum. What do you see in particular that is driving
that? I think in that respect, Gavin, what drives us now is everybody wants a better world. But what drives the industry is, I think, basically the regulatory rules that will be imposing in shipping. It's gaining momentum. The IMO is an ambitious bunch of people. If I look at it, it will be supported by governments and the EU, for instance, that is getting more and more nervous about our planet. I'm sure the regulations and rules will be put into place in the next few years, and that, for instance, also with the EU proposition now to make the CO2 also part of ETS system, is going to be bankable, and therefore it will have an effect on the management of shipping companies. That is, I think, the main driver to start off here. Besides that, I can also see that the technology is gaining, is becoming almost ready for the market. If not, some are ready for the market. So it all comes together a little bit from the development side, and as well as the urge to do something about the environment.
Right. So it's kind of that perfect storm of regulation, but also the technology coming in. Yeah. And of course, I think we saw just before the COVID-19 pandemic kicking in, we saw fuel prices ticking upwards. Of course, we've seen that go straight back down again. So we've got very low fuel prices again. But the underlying trend was for increased price of fuel as well. If you add the carbon price on top of that, then we've got a pressure on the upward stage. In coming through, we've seen over the last couple of years, we've seen this momentum developing, but we've also not seen enough. Obviously, from an association point of view, we've not seen enough installations. So a lot of interest. The industry is starting to align with a lot of the same targets that we've been supporting, but still there isn't the buy-in to the level that we need to be seeing. So what are the key barriers here? Well, what is stopping a ship owner today? I walk into his office and say, we've got a basket of technologies that you can put on your ship today that can save you fuel and save you money. What are the key barriers that are stopping them making that decision?
Yeah, that's interesting. If we look in 2020, we're living now. Yeah, it's without doubt also the ship owner, if you ask him, he wants to go for a greener planet, and there's no doubt that he wants to help it. But on the wind-assisted propulsion side, we have, as I said in my presentation, we have an image problem. On the romantic side, it's an old-fashioned side, and is it workable side? So that needs to be worked on, which is a barrier. Takeaway is, okay, look, and I can tell you from my own experience, as you saw in the pictures, shipping can do amazing things. Everything is possible. We realize the inconceivable on that, and wind-assisted propulsion is just, for me, not a technical issue at all. But of course, within any innovation in any company, there is a resistance towards it and cynicism that you need to address and disarm, basically, by showing it can be done, by reassuring it. There's the proof of reliability is another hurdle. We don't have the economical the data for the economics yet. So you can't go to the bank and say, look, this ship will save 8%, or this system will save 6% or 20%. It's not yet formalized. We don't know that yet. Safety-wise, operationally, as I showed on the picture, you still have to, it has to work even in WindForce 9. I know from real life that if you go to sea, you can almost hear it breaking down. Everything will break down. So you need to be bulletproof in that respect. We can't prove that yet. We have to get over that hurdle. Then there's of course, the other side is the financial startup. There's a wall for extra investment, of course. And as we know in our long lifetime, there's always a hurdle or a new wall or a bad timing to start new investments. But in this case, ship owners and banks and equity funds, etc., they have to go and realize again, as normal in business, that the cost becomes before the profit.
Yeah, I think that's very true in the discussions that I've had with ship owners. But there's also a tendency to look at unit 1 or unit 2 with the ROIs that and I think as an industry, I think we need to be looking a little bit more strategically at not unit 10, but unit 100 for the cost, the economies of scale that we'll be developing. And I think we do that quite well when we're looking at alternative fuels that you touched on in your presentation. We look at that as a long-term investment with heavy infrastructure investments that are required on land to deliver the fuels to the vessels. But it's interesting that perception is very much different when looking at wind propulsion, which can deliver a significant amount of energy. The criteria seems to be different that's being used to assess that investment.
I couldn't hear you quite well.
Yeah, so all I was saying was that when we're looking at wind propulsion systems, the investment criteria or the way of looking at that investment can be a little bit different to the way that alternative fuel investments are looked at, with a lot of infrastructure investment that's required to develop those.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I totally agree with that. If you look at the grand scheme of things, Gavin, I think as well, the investment in wind-assisted propulsion is relatively low. Indeed, we don't have to build any infrastructure shoreside, and your results are direct, immediate. So I think wind-assisted propulsion in the next decade is low-hanging fruit for ship owners, and it is maybe the best. It is one of the very best solutions on the short term. If you look at the long-term decisions, of course, we need to do more. We need to make LNG infrastructure, ammonia infrastructure. It will come, luckily, but indeed, it's not built by tomorrow. Wind-assisted propulsion, you can have it up and running next year.
Yep, absolutely. I won't disagree with you on that. Okay, we're coming to the last few minutes of the interview, so I'm just going to give you a couple of quick fire questions. Probably got time for about 3 of these. If you can just give me a 1-sentence, very short answer to each. So the first one is on a personal note. How did you get into wind propulsion? Yeah, what inspired you, or what was the trigger for you to get involved in this sector?
That is back in the last century. In 1983, I wrote my thesis about wind-assisted propulsion and the economic and navigational aspects of this. And ever since, I have been a fan of that. For me, it's a no-brainer.
So before you wrote that thesis, before I was born.
Yes,
that's a joke. That's a joke. But please go ahead.
Quieted down for 30 years, and now I do believe it's coming. It's coming.
Yeah, it's time. Its time is here. Well, I would certainly agree with that. Okay, on a sort of a, how can I say, getting the argument over the line with ship owners. We have a lot of technology providers and technology developers, engineers that are working on systems in IWS. Could you give us 1 or 2 things that are really key for them to include in their pitch owner? What are the key issues or the unique sales points that they really need to hammer home?
Yeah, that's a very good one. I think what the guys should do is, first of all, tell them the immediate effect it has on their investment. It is again, it is a relatively low investment, and it's low-hanging fruit. You have direct results on your environmental regulations and on your fuel consumptions, etc. That's the one thing. The other thing they have to do is reassure the ship owners and the equity owners. It will work. It is not dangerous. It's not scary. It is good to show understanding to the ship owners what the captain outside in Wind Force 9 knows and feels. I think that's the main issues.
I think that comes across very clearly. Okay, I'm just going to ask one final question, which is around that issue of the price, or the ROI, the return on investment. One option that is being floated by a number of our members is the leasing of equipment, as opposed to the heavy capex. It would actually be more of an operational expenditure or an OPEX aspect to the installation of. Do you see that as a potential game changer for ship
owners? I do, actually. I do. It of course, it spreads the risks of the the investment. That's it. On the other hand, if it depends on the shipping company, of course. If it's a huge company, again, I think the investments in wind assisted propulsion are relatively low. So if they have to think to do the number crunching on that.
Okay, but it certainly could be part of the mix.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, Frank, thank you very much for answering all those questions. I'm going to give you the last say with a 1 minute sort of sum up or takeaway that you can speak to camera now. So please, if you finish that off, and then we'll conclude the interview.
Okay. Yeah. Well, thanks, Gavin. I thank the IWSA. It's great to know you guys. It's great there is this momentum in the shipping world, and it's growing. I am very energized about these developments here, and I do feel we are at the verge of a tsunami of development into reality of a dream that's been since 1983, for me at least. There, I think the surf is up, guys. Let's go.
Fantastic. I couldn't have said that better myself. Frank, I'd just like to say thank you so much for spending some time with us today. So I'd like to say thank you formally to Frank Berrens, CEO of Berrens Maritime. And please, if you have any questions, his email is on the screen here. And of course, I'm always available to answer questions at secretary@wind-ship.org. Thank you very much. Stay safe, stay well, and fair winds to you all. Thank you.